Oh, did you start it or did I?
Yeah, we can start.
Did you start it or did I start that recording?
Actually, I start, but both you can also start it to save as yours.
It's still saying I can't, but do you just want to record it and then
Yeah,
send
sure.
it to me or something?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, sweet as. Do you want me to start now then? You're good to start?
Yeah, you can start.
Sweet as. Did the government's COVID restrictions cause a big change in how you lived your life to before?
I think absolutely it's totally changed my life because in China, the government restriction said we cannot go out of our house. I think same as New Zealand. And also we need to stay at home, like the self-isolation to avoid the COVID. So actually I can't like enjoy the fresh air every day and I cannot hang out with my friends all the time. Mostly I need to like stay in my room. And I think the longest date I stay in my room almost like the 3 months. I didn't walk outside. So actually I think it's really bad for our mental health. And also like because of the restriction, we can't go anywhere we want. It's just like the New Zealand government doesn't allow our international students to come in. So actually I need to graduate last year, but for some reasons I cannot to attend the class. So yeah, I just pay the high tuition fee, but like wasting my time. So actually the restriction is quite difficult for us.
Did COVID stop you from coming to New Zealand? Did it push you back a year or two from being able to come to New Zealand? Were you planning on coming?
Yeah. Actually, I supposed to come to New Zealand like 2020, like 2 years earlier, but I can't because New Zealand government has closed the border gate for us, so we cannot join here. We can only take the online classes, and also the tuition fee is expensive. It's very expensive. So actually, I don't want, so I take the gap for like 2 years.
How long were the lockdown restrictions in China? Were they around?
Still for now, it's almost like 3
Are
years.
they still
Yeah,
there?
it's still. I know the NZ has stopped this like the coronavirus thing, but the China also, if my district have one positive case, then all the districts need to lock down for like the 7 days. So actually we already get to use it.
Do you think the government restrictions and rules have been around for the right amount of time? Too long or not enough?
Actually, I think it's too long because I know there are lots of like the industry and the company has bankrupt during the pandemic. And also some of the people died. It's not from the COVID-19 things. It's from like the shortage of the medical supply and the shortage of the like food supply. So I think the government take the restriction too long.
Do you think the restrictions and rules were too tight, or do you think they were the right amount? Do you think they were too strict?
Actually, I think it's right amount because I think the government also facing a very tricky situation. They didn't have this pandemic before. They don't face this problem before, so they have no idea to how to deal with that. They do this purpose is only to maximum to keep everyone in health and everyone in healthy and everyone in the safe place. So I think the most people who works in the government are also suffered from like the social pressure from peoples. And it's like my uncle is also work for the government. And before the pandemic, he doesn't have a lot of job every day. And after the pandemic, he had to work like 24 hours for 7 days. So also it's so hard to the government. So I think the restriction is the right amount to them. even we suffered from this situation is so bad.
So you believe that the restrictions were needed in order to stop and slow down COVID?
No, I don't think so. Because
You don't?
I don't think so, because the China have the most strict rules around around the world. But for now, the China didn't stop the COVID pandemic. We also have to suffer from this one. And also, these things is happened because nowadays the people who have the COVID with a positive case, they don't have the symptoms. So it's so hard to find people who ever got the COVID or not. So it's so hard to track them. So I think the restriction cannot stop the pandemic, but it will take a slow down, I think.
It can slow it down, yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit too much. We can't actually stop it.
Yeah.
And with the rules we have, it's too much. How did the rules and restrictions make you feel? Did they make you feel lonely or anything like that?
Actually, I feel so tired and hopeless. And actually, I really enjoyable when I stay in New Zealand, because I think New Zealand is more free than the China, as I mentioned. As I mentioned before, like the China has the most strict rules in the world, I think. So every day in China, I just hope that we don't have any positive cases around us. If we do have one, we need to lock down for only one person, like the 1 month for her or him. So actually it's really terrible. And before the pandemic, I think the China is the most convenient country, because actually we can order everything from online. So we don't have a lot of food stored in our home. But after the pandemic, we do have suffer from like the shortage of the fruit and veggies. We don't have a lot. So it's so horrible during this years. I feel so hopeless.
Are you still feeling these negative effects from COVID? Still to this day?
No, because now I stay in New Zealand, so
In New Zealand,
it's fun. Yeah, but my family are struggle with them.
A bit harder in China with the stricter rules.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the government did enough listening to the public and their ideas on how to best handle the pandemic?
For China or for the New Zealand?
We can start with China.
In China, I think no, because most of the people who suffered from like the economic issues and something because of the COVID pandemic, every store need to lock down, need to shut down, and they don't have the income, and they also need to pay the rent and the bills. So actually they do report to the government, but actually the government didn't respond to them. The government have their own restriction and their own rules. So everyone needs to obey them. And it's so hard for people who live during these 3 years. And also I will say in New Zealand, I saw recently I saw some news like the base has got robbed by do you know that yesterday?
Yeah, they got robbed.
Yeah, I think it's a reason why people who doing this thing, because they don't have the money. Why they don't have the money is because like the pandemic, they have cut down a lot of like the employment, so they can't get a really good job, so they only need to do this thing to get some money to like pay their rent or some bills. They need to alive.
Do you think the government should be listening to the people more in situations like this?
Yeah, exactly, totally. Because the government work for the people, so the government must need to listen to the people's voice.
That's a good point. Do you believe the government has learned much about responding to a pandemic from COVID-19?
Actually, yes. I think the government have learned a lot, because the COVID-19 has continued like 3 years. And actually at the first, I think that every country's government has announced that, hold on, we can control this. Everyone just need to calm down and we can just solve this problem in 1 year. But actually the corona is still for now. It's almost like 3 years. So I think the government has learned a lot. It's like the crisis management and some like public relationship. They need to learn about how to deal with that.
In your opinion, what rules and regulations do you think were the best at slowing down the pandemic?
Absolutely lockdown.
Lockdown, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Because
hard.
the COVID happens because people get interact with each others. And if we just everybody lock in their home, it's like bubble thing, right? We just keep our social distance, then this COVID doesn't affect us. Yeah, so I think the lockdown is the only way, I think, to just slow down, but it won't be stopped.
It's impossible to stop the situation.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Do you think the government went too far and too extreme with any of the rules, such as you were talking before with too long of a lockdown period? Do you think that's too far?
Yeah, actually, I think it's a little bit too far because I think the government didn't focus on what the people needs, because actually, I think after this 3 years pandemic, we are not afraid of to get the COVID. We are afraid of we didn't get a job, we didn't get the money. So actually, the disease is not so scared, I think. Actually, I don't scare it at all, because I just scared if I didn't get a job, I can't get a job both in New Zealand or China, or I don't get any income. I think it's the most concerning thing for all the people, I think.
If the government had a similar situation in the future, how do you believe they should handle it? In a similar way, or do you think they should take a new route?
Actually, I think it's in a similar way.
It worked quite well this time, especially in New Zealand. So
yeah,
a similar way would be the step. Next time, what do you believe the government could do better in handling a situation like this?
Actually, I think they will put more effort on like the medical research, like the vaccine research. They can do better. Just like, how to say it? Yeah, I think the medical and the vaccine research is the most important for them.
Yeah, I agree. Sweet. That's me as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was good then.
Yeah.